people come on to connect to the Zoom, Judy, and come in like it?
Yeah, Dave, we'll share how we do it afterwards, because it's a really good platform, I think.
But once it goes out, that's when you guys can put it out on your pages and it goes live.
So what I've just shared is the link you've sent us. Have I done that wrong?
Yeah, because we don't want people joining this room. We just want them watching.
Okay, so we're live.
Hello.
Hi, welcome to this Saturday Night LUF Lounge.
My name's Pete Yarwood, and this is Emma Daggers, the speaker, preacher, and all-round seeker.
And this is Mr. Peter Yarwood, the leader, the legend, and the lover of all things beautiful.
Thank you. And we have got a packed agenda tonight, haven't we, Emma?
Yeah.
We've got some great speakers. So we've got Paula Harriott from the Prison Reform Trust.
Give us a wave, Paula.
We've got Robert Mee.
Can you hear me?
Out in the bay.
Can you actually hear me?
Yeah, just shout
Yeah,
when he shouts your name, yeah.
We can hear you, Rob.
Hi, Rob.
You're all right.
We've got Dave and Kerrie Higham from the Well.
Yes, the Well. Hi, Well in the house.
Oh,
Hi, guys.
Hi, guys. We've got Peter Furlong from CGL talking about naloxone.
Peter in the
Hello,
house.
everyone.
Hi, Pete.
You all right?
And Melanie Cowan zooming in from
All the way from Blackburn.
Blackburn.
Hi, Mel.
Hi, Mel. We've got Gareth and Gemma.
Hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
And we've got our very own Glen Island and Liz Lund, who are going to be scanning any comments that you guys, any questions, any thoughts, are also going to be shouting out so that we know, we know that we know you're there and we're engaging with you. We've also got Ariella Williams
in the house. Hi, Ariella.
Hello, everyone.
So with that, we've got a packed agenda. Should we just get straight into it?
Yeah, I just think it's really important as well to mention that until we get the trends and the themes from our audience and from the guys out there to set this in motion for the weeks following, so we can set agendas for what you want to know, we're going to go with the values of the LUF. And one of them being community. So we're going to talk about people connecting together to make recovery a reality for the whole system, the whole world, whatever that looks like. And
one of the themes we was talking about was as leaders, how can we take care of ourselves and the teams we manage during this crisis? That was one of the themes, and we'll get into that as we get through the agenda. But current topic on the news today, lots of prisoners with short sentences have been released into the community. So we just got straight on the phone to Paula Harriott from the Reform Trust and just asked the question, Paula, how do you feel about coming on to the live LUF Lounge? And fair play to you, Paula, with just like 20 minutes notice, you were there, weren't you?
in there.
Welcome, Paula Harriott.
Unmute yourself.
Mute myself. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Nice. No, and definitely. I mean, delighted to take part. You know, amongst friends. So that's lovely. But yeah, it's a really important announcement. And I work at the Prison Reform Trust in London, working on the involvement of prisoners in our work and in policy work in general. And over the last 2 weeks, we've been stepping up the pressure behind the scenes on the government about the coronavirus drama in prisons, because much has been made of keeping the public safe, but very little's been made about keeping prisoners safe. You know, once again, the unpopular people in society seem to be left out of the conversation. And what I'm hearing in my work, because prisoners are phoning me constantly, is, and I'm sure for many of you in this meeting, you know, you've had prisoners and prisoners' families on the phones getting concerned about how visits have stopped, how prisoners are getting ill, but there's not been space to self-isolate them, how there's no sanitizer, hand sanitizer in prisons because of the alcohol content. I mean, some really bizarre stuff that's been going on where people, staff getting ill. So there's 10% of the prison workforce at the moment off sick. And what that means then is that for prisoners, there's now a total lockdown. That for most prisoners now, it's a 23 hours and 45-minute lockdown.
I mean,
Out of the cell every single day.
It's a community, isn't it? A prison.
It's a community.
It's a community. I expect you could manage in this crisis pretty well. I know I was a cleaner, and I just would imagine some of the guys in there will clean them wings to within an inch of their life.
No, but I don't think they're out of the cells too clean.
Yeah,
I agree. I think that if some responsibility was placed on the prisoners themselves to keep themselves safe, then they'd be able to run a regime that would sort of probably encompass some of the social distancing and protective measures that the government's talking about. But once again, prisoners are treated like dumb individuals that need to be boxed off. And so what we've had is a lockdown. And I think that we should all be really, really worried about that. I mean,
why should prisoners be released then, Paula?
Because it's too dangerous to keep them in those confined spaces. Look at the cases of coronavirus on cruise ships. Anybody who's you've been to prison. I've been to prison. I've been personally in prison and now work in prisons. And prisons are not the cleanest. Their infrastructure of prisons, they're not clean to start with. So there's always the risk of infection. People are kept in really close quarters. You know, you've got 2 men in a cell, sometimes 3. You know, it's impossible to prevent the transference of infection. Think about a phone on the wing.
Yeah.
How many people have breathed into that device? Think about it without you know, a sanitizer, bleach, alcohol, rubs, whatever, you know, wet wipes. Think about how unsanitary that situation is. And we cannot sit back and watch what is going to be deaths of prisoners that could be avoided. Surely not.
We've had a question from Kev Zeminski, and he's asking, like, why are prisoners being released?
Yes, so the Prison Reform Trust has been campaigning about that over the last 2 weeks. A few days ago, we saw the first announcement that I think they tested the water. They said, let's let the pregnant women out and the women who are locked up in the mother and baby units with their kids. So we saw that, I think was that Wednesday. We saw an announcement that those women would be released. And then now we've had an announcement from the government that all prisoners within 2 months of their release date, if they're in the categories of non-violent crime, will be released in the next week. And this is because there's such pressure on the prison system at the moment with staff sickness. I don't even know if they're really worried about the health of prisoners. I think it's more that the risk of disorder right now is immense. I think the risk of riots is immense. I think there's at some point people are not going to be able to tolerate the lockdown.
Paula, just on the women, a big advocate for women myself coming out of prison, are the women being signposted to somewhere? Are they being looked after when they come out?
Well, I think that's the problem too, isn't it, Emma? The government's making announcements to let people out, but
will they have anywhere to live?
Even if probation was working, Emma, right? Even if we thought before this, right, that probation was doing a great job at supporting people, it's definitely not going to be able to do a good job now. Probation's gone to telephone support. It's gone to no face-to-face. That's also in tatters. You know, you've got a high percentage of probation staff self-isolating and off sick. So I think it's a grim picture for people coming out. I think it's a grim picture. There's not going to be the support that's from the statutory service there. People are coming out with £46 in a discharge grant. Have you tried to spend cash in a shop recently? Have you?
Yeah, I have, and they won't take it.
They won't take the cash.
I went to a shop the other day and they said contactless only. So where are these people going to get food from? you know, who is stepping into this breach? And that's why I was glad to come on this meeting today, right? Because I think it's the people who've lived it, the people with lived experience of these issues, the mutual aid like organisations are going to be the only people who are going to step into this breach in any meaningful way, because we're not doing it for the money. We're not doing it for the kudos, right? We're doing it out of heart and compassion for people, because they're our people. They're not other people to us, are they? They're our people. And like, I know that you all do this fabulous work already, right? But in the moments of crisis, it's also a moment of opportunity, isn't it? It's an opportunity to demonstrate like our worth in this situation.
Our strength, our compassion.
Our strength and our humanity and our compassion. And that's why I suppose, you know, I wanted to come on just to say, politically and policy wise, that's my job. I'm out there advocating, like, get your shit together, let these people out. And it's not even about letting the people out, right? We also can't forget the people that they're not going to let out. They're not going to let out anybody in the A cats, they're not going to let out anybody in the B cats, and they're not going to let out anybody in really much in the C cats. Anybody serving any sentence of any duration is not getting out, and they are suffering. So I would just like to say to people, sorry if I'm going on, but just before I end this, like, sometimes we get caught up in the people in the revolving door, don't we? About, you know, there's always a lot of stuff talking about, let's let them out. But let's not forget that that's really only about 10,000 people in the system, and there's 83,000 people in prison, or 86, yeah?
So we've got a question from Daniel Littlechild, who says, what happens when they get released? Where are they going to go to? Will they have somewhere to live?
Well, God knows. I think that's if you've got housing, this is where mutual aid housing can come into play. You know, if you can get in touch with your local prisons and say you're available, make sure that they know that there's housing. Get in touch with the resettlement teams right now, because they'll be scratching around looking for somewhere to place these people. If you can offer supported housing, this is the moment to step forward.
Absolutely. Our very own Tony Lee is asking.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, Tony. Shout out, Tony.
Shout out to Tony Lee.
Tony wants to know, will it be a staggered release, or will it be just open the doors Monday morning? And
well, they're talking about they're going to have to test people for coronavirus before they let them out.
So there is testing kits for the
well, who knows? There's no testing kits out here, are there? So, like, fuck knows about that, excuse me. But, like, they're talking about coronavirus testing before people are released. And I think they'd have to think that through. I think they're gonna have to make sure that people have somewhere safe to go, and they're gonna have to find out some way to get people the support they need, because otherwise we're going to be setting those people up to fail. But just to go, can I just go back to my point about the people who are in prison, who I still remain really concerned about. Yes, we're going to get some people out, but the majority are staying in prison. So in terms of mutual aid and support, I'd ask for people who, if you know people who are in jail right now, drop them a line. Get on email a prisoner, spend 41p and send them an email. If you've got any spare money, send them 10 quid to put on the phone so that they can communicate on those couple of minutes when they're out. Get on Moonpig, send them a card. Do you know what I mean? Use one of the Moonpig, touch note, jailmate, send them a card.
That email you said then, Paula, what was that email?
Email a prisoner. So you can log on. There's an organisation called emailaprisoner.com. And you can join, you can buy some credit, and it's 41 pence to send an email to a prisoner. You need their name and number and their prison. All prisons receive emails, and it can be, you can send it today, they'll get it tomorrow. Just drop them somebody a line to say that you're showing concern for them. Demonstrating that they're not the forgotten people behind the wall who nobody cares if they live or die. I think it's really, I know that sounds really emotional, but
it is, though.
Many of us have been in jail. We know that sometimes it can feel like nobody cares. And I suppose this is the moment to reach out, because we're all going to remember the kindness, aren't we? If I look back over my prison journey, I remembered the people who reached out. And I remember
if someone no fix the board, if somebody's no fix the board, they don't have an address, what's going to happen then?
I wonder if I don't think they'll be released.
Right.
I don't
So
think that they legitimately can release people NFA in this time. So this is the moment when I suppose we can come forward with offers to accommodate people, and it's a great moment for mutual aid housing organisations to step into the breach and step into the forefront, because I think that strategically, if we organise now, like these meetings are self-organised, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I think if you talk about mutual aid and self-organising now, and we demonstrate the value of that, we'll do it for free today.
Yeah. They are doing a good job.
Come the next commissioning rounds, let's make sure that we put our flag in the ground to say, you know, we people.
Yeah. We're fortunate because we've got some good examples of that. I know Dave and Kerrie will be chomping at the bit to come in there.
Yeah.
You know,
so it is that moment, isn't it, locally for the mutual aid organisations to come forward. Yeah. Go on. Dave, you want to say something?
Unmute, Dave.
Hey, Paula, you're all right.
Yeah. Nice to see you too.
And yeah, it's great to see your face as well. It's been ages. Paula was my old boss. Back in the day, but I put a comment on our comment around. In the first instance, we need to stop sending people back on recall, because people have been getting sent back on recall, and the short-term prisoners as well that they're still sending in for fines, which is ridiculous.
I know.
We need to, at the first instance, I think it's stopping people going back into prison. That's just on this conveyor belt, which is no harm to the public. So you know, some of these are just for fines and stuff like that. But on a cautious note as well, I think we have to be careful, because we don't want to let a massive cohort of people on an already strained probation services. That's not really, it's difficult to the CRCs. That's why it's going back into probation. And all the accommodation, where are these people going? Because we want to try and make this like a positive releases where they can get into something like recovery housing. So we work within HMP Old Course, where we're linking people into the communities. Some of them have they've stopped all services coming into the prison. So it's like it's got to be a planned discharge for me, in terms of where they're going. Do they actually know what's really going on in the community, and the dangers of catching this? So for me, it's got to be a really strategic plan.
And it feels like a panic, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it feels like a panic reaction.
Because you don't just want to open the doors, let all these people out, and then they're really getting the positive support and linked into the right services because of the lockdown.
Dave, if you just sit back a bit, you know, when you sit forward and you speak, it starts echoing.
I'm just like,
He's the same.
Then he just grabbed me back there every time I go.
So what I'm hearing as well there is, you know, things like practical things like, we're in the age of digital age now, aren't we? So Zoom meetings, these now, they're all online. So equipping our people who are getting out with might be a burner phone for, you know, numbers of organisations that can get them in touch with the mutual aid, because it's not like walking out the prison gates like it used to be when we were there, Paula. No. You can't just tip up somewhere to a meeting. They need to be armed with the facts.
So what we're doing in G4S in Old Course, we're getting people's smartphones, and then we can link them in to all the online support that's available. So there's a number of different support. There's meetings every night. There's mutual aids every night. We've got, we'll talk about this later, but virtual hubs that they can get in. So it seems like there's more available online now.
Yeah. I was saying this last week.
This has been really and innovative in terms of what we've been
Yeah.
thinking outside of the box of what we can deliver.
Absolutely.
And I think all the organisations, yourselves included, is like we're coming up with different ways to working with people. And for me now, I feel more connected than ever through these processes. So I think you could actually, if there was money put in, Paula, I don't know if that's possible.
Hold on, Dave. Somebody's got Facebook open and we're getting some feedback.
Rob B, I
on the
think
line.
you need to mute yourself, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Go on, Dave, carry on.
So, Paula, I think it'd be a good idea if, like, they invested some money and saying each prisoner that's going to be released is going to be given maybe a smartphone that's got access. It's already set up access to all the mutual aid. That's every single night. There's support services available. There's one-to-ones available. All every day. There's something happening. 3, 4, 5 times a day. They can tap into something. So there's more resources now than the ever is through this online process.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Dave, about the phone, right? And what I'm going to do, my boss, the director of the Prison Reform Trust, so he speaks with the minister weekly at the moment. So I will definitely take that away, and I'll send Peter an email. And what I could say to, if there's anybody online or who's got an idea about how we can do this safely. I mean, I can't guarantee the minister takes any notice, but I can definitely guarantee that I can pass that through to my boss who can raise it.
But we're in a new age now, aren't we? A new way of working. The old way's not going to work now. Can I just bring Glenn in? Because I know Glenn's got some questions from our community. Glenn, unmute yourself.
There we go.
Hi,
Paula, you all right?
Hi, Glenn.
Yeah, so there's a couple of questions from the community. With the pandemic, have you seen that crime rates have gone up, and will this have an impact on judges handing out lighter sentences to people because they don't want people going to prison?
I actually can't talk to that. I'm really sorry. I don't know. Have crime rates gone up? I mean, I can imagine at some point shoplifting's going to increase. But I don't know.
Have you seen that in the prison system though? Has there been
at the moment? No, we've seen cases of people being sentenced for resisting arrest, spitting at officers, spitting at supermarket staff, coughing. So aggravated offences. But I haven't seen anything specifically about rising crime. I've seen that jury trials have been disbanded at the moment. So with people who are on remand are being held much longer than previously expected to be in prison.
Okay, we're coming towards the end of this stream.
Sorry, did you have other questions?
Yeah, one of the guys had a question. Have you got some more questions, Glenn, as well?
Yeah, I've got one. It might be a strange question, this, but I've been going into the prison as well, and I know there's some individuals that are doing programs and things like that. They've been worried about being released. So, do they have a choice about being released under this pandemic?
I think if they're going to be picked out as being eligible for release, it would depend on the circumstances. I actually don't know, and I can ask that question too, and I can feed back in the next week's meeting in relation to that.
And I think if we can get all the comments that are coming in and get them to Paula, we can get them answered.
Yeah, I can feed that back direct via Pete and Emma.
Yeah.
Just lastly, and this is an issue, it's probably on for Dave as well. But one of the questions come through about smart technology. What happens if the guys can't use that technology? They're not, IT illiterate.
Yeah.
And the short answer, I suppose, is they're going to have to learn, aren't they? We're going to have to teach them how to do it.
And that'll be over a phone.
Yeah.
Or Zoom.
I think just the basics is just, we've taught some of our guys how to access Zoom, and just for basic connection, it's really straightforward of just clicking on the link. If you download the app, you can click on the link, and it's just, and I know it's difficult for some, but if 5-minute tutorials as they're leaving prison, just to say, look, there's the app, this is how you click on it, or just an explanation down on the notes page. Because if the app's already on there, it's just a matter of clicking on, and then following the link like we've just done.
So Dave, are you still doing face-to-face pickups from prison?
Yeah. So we're picking people up still. So what we do, we've got our own assessment screening that we're doing with them, and then picking them up, because otherwise they're just getting left on the streets to walk. So we're still picking people up, and we're still putting them in our accommodation as well if they after they've been screened.
Yeah.
And there's we've had reassurance from inside the prison that they haven't been ill in the last couple of weeks as well.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Because connection is the key word there, isn't it? And even though we're not actually connecting in a room, we're going to have to learn, and we are learning how to do it over phones and digitally. We will definitely be a different kind of person when we come out of this.
And I think the one thing to say is like, we're not experts, all us on here are not experts. We've had to learn.
Yeah.
And some of us are like that. How'd you do that, Emma? How'd you do this? Because we don't know, and we're all learning, and it's okay. It's like Kerrie says to our team, get things wrong quickly so we can learn and move on.
Yeah.
Said it to me before.
Someone called Mandy has just said it's simple. You just do online demos. The guys are engaging, they're giving input into some of these solutions.
That's what we want.
Okay, thanks, Paula.
Thanks, Paula.
Thank you.
Stick
Thanks for having me. We just want to give a big shout out to John Roberts, who's watching in rehab all the way in Wales.
Yes,
Hiya, John.
John.
You all right, mate?
You're nearly there, mate. You're nearly there. Dig deep.
So Rob Mees up next. Rob's been waiting patiently. Rob, I'm going to give a caveat to Rob while he unmutes himself and say, don't swear. We're not past the watershed yet.
Yeah, I've wrote some things down.
How's Pride going, Rob? Or not going?
We've had to cancel, postpone rather. It keeps going off. We've postponed it for a while. We're hoping September. I use the word hope in September. But it's a bit heartbreaking that everybody's put a lot of work into it.
Yeah.
And we're cancelling it. And I am crap with IT stuff. I've got a computer there, a laptop here, a phone there, and this is not going well for me.
You're doing well.
You always pull it off. Lancaster Pride last year was brilliant.
It was. I was there with my son.
And this year it'll be just as good. It might just be a little bit late. So can I ask you then, because you're representing the LGBT community, so what issues do the LGBT community face living, say, for instance, with homophobic parents or, mental health problems in isolation? How are they coping, Rob?
Well, we've got two lovely workers who've carried on working with phone conversations. And I think for some people, going to school or uni was a way of saving themselves.
Yeah.
It was a release away from families that can be really, really horrible. I suppose we're not alone in that. I think there's quite a lot of kids who use school to be fed or an escape from parents. I think where we'll struggle is, what do we do if somebody comes to us and says, I'm homeless, where do I go?
Yeah.
I think there's Walter Lyon House and a few other places where I can try and support people into. But I think actually, somebody suffering from domestic violence, what are we going to do?
Yeah, I think that's a shout out as well, Rob, for if there is anyone watching that does have any information to let you know in the comments as well.
Yeah, I think there's some recovery services that we could probably tip off and ask nicely to support people and house them for a while. But I think there's going to be some serious problems when this is over. We know of a lot of people who have relapsed with alcohol problems.
Yeah.
That's a massive thing. And I think for me personally, I've spent all day at the golf club today helping chefs catering to try and get these meals out to homeless people. And I struggle balancing my recovery at the moment, because 1 minute I knew what I was doing, and now I'm like this with computers thinking, where am I going? I nearly swore. Where am I going with all this? Because I'm realised how crap I am at this.
But look at you, you're on here. You're great at it.
Yeah. But we used to have Luke in our office, so anything IT based, Luke was like, this is how you do it. And I've got sausage fingers, so every time I press buttons, I get about 5 keys. So it's been a nightmare, this. So I've got a lot of learning to do.
We all have, Rob. The world has. The world has. Just on that, there was a few people relapse this week over where I am, and you know, there's an actual government policy now for no evictions for the homeless. So I know that there are there's a small cohort in Preston that have been put in a hotel. So there is actually that. Paula, you're nodding there. Are you agreeing with me?
Yeah, that is true. That you're right. There's a policy that there should be no evictions.
No evictions.
Homeless people should be being picked up by the local authority and placed into accommodation.
Yeah.
Well, we'll probably get into some of that later on. So, Rob, have you got any? I'm just conscious we've got a few guys who are looking in online. We've got Tamsin. Shout out to Tamsin.
Hi, Tamsin. See you
right.
next week.
And Pam from Tempo Time Credits.
Hi, Pam.
So Rob, we're going to have the Pride, aren't we? It's just been postponed.
We're hoping September. Government guidelines might mean we all have to be 2 meters apart. But I think that's going to be one big party when it comes around. That
pray for it.
Bring everybody together.
Yeah.
And hopefully won't be too many deaths along the way, because that's the reality of some of this. I think I honestly don't know how to support people, because the ways that we used to find people and support them, so a lot of that's gone. I know I took part in a council meeting yesterday where they said all the homeless people in Lancaster and Morecambe have been housed in hotels.
I thought Lancaster didn't have any homeless people, though.
Well, yeah, they reckon they've all been homed. Chef's Catering are sending out meals to somebody who's homeless in a tent. I'm not going to tell you where they are.
Well done, Chef's Catering.
So, you know, when I was in that council meeting and I went, not everybody's been housed, I got a lot of abuse for it. And I thought, well, it's not true.
I think this is a time for honesty, though. You know, everyone to get honest and say, well, actually, we're not, or we need help to do it, and to support camaraderie, you know, to come together and support, because we can, but on our own, we can't.
Yeah.
And sharing our resources and our strengths and experience.
So if you need to learn Zoom, Gareth will be a great teacher.
Gareth put it on my phone, but it's my laptop that I haven't got it on. The volume's gone on my phone, so I can't actually hear anything on the phone. So before, when you were all talking, I'm like...
Well, stick around.
And you might learn something.
Stick around, because I think our next speaker, Ariella Williams, I'll have some good things for you to think about. And
I'll get a pad out.
So thanks, Rob. I'm just going to put you on mute and introduce Ariella Williams. Ariella,
stop shouting. Please stop shouting.
But Ariella,
right in my ear.
All the way. Where are you coming from, Ariella?
St Helens.
So I have to shout so she can hear.
We're not here in Lancaster either, mate. Say as loud as you want.
Thank you for coming on, Ariella. So,
can you shine a light on the alcohol paper, Ariella?
Yes, and thank you so much for asking me to come along. I'm hugely welcomed. I think, as our last speaker just said, is it Rob? People will be relapsing from alcohol. People will be worrying about their alcohol use, creeping up on them. Wine o'clock will be happening a lot earlier for people working from home.
Yeah.
And people who haven't got any money and can't buy alcohol, who may go into quite severe alcohol withdrawals if they don't get alcohol. there are lots and lots of people out there like that, right across Lancashire, right across the country, that are going to need something quite specific in terms of clear support, what to do, who will do it, and when it will happen. So our Change, Grow, Live alcohol plan is aimed at all of those groups. And what our take is that it's business as usual in terms of being there for people with alcohol needs, right through that spectrum from drinking at risk through to heavily dependent who would normally go into an inpatient unit. Our aim is to work with every single individual that needs that help. It's working in a very different way. Yeah. We'll be offering community alcohol detoxes remotely. We will be, which means that the nurse will assess somebody directly in a really rapid way over the phone or Zoom or Skype or all of those apps that are, you know, really out there now, so you can talk to people but not in the same room. And we've really adjusted what it is that we're doing. We've taken out what I think are a lot of hurdles and hoops that won't go back on the table once this is all over anyway. And I think we're taking some learning from this terribly unprecedented time. But what we are all about is making sure that people who need us get that help. And for them, although they're staying at home or they might be in a hotel or a hostel, the support they get should be absolutely the same. It's just going to be done in a very different way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So what help can homeless people in hostels or the new hostels, if they're dependent on alcohol, what help can they get?
That's something that we're working really closely with a number of hostel providers, including the Salvation Army nationally. And we're looking to test bed something at the Salvation Army St Helens this week, where again, these are people that are highly vulnerable to, you know, they've got a double whammy, highly vulnerable to catching COVID because of living on the street, because of not accessing probably health facilities, at risk of respiratory disease, and then at the same time dependent on alcohol. That's a double whammy, and it's something that we are working to address really quickly right now. So we're working with hostels leads at the Salvation Army to work in a way that we can scale up nationally. And I'm also liaising with commissioners, as many commissioners as I can across the country, to see what they're doing, so that we can bring something together that connects with what's going on right across the country to make sure we use what's out there. So if you're in a hostel, you're dependent, we will look at doing exactly the same as we would to somebody who's housed safely in the community. So for example, in the Salvation Army, we're asking in St Helens, they're going to screen, their workers are going to screen every single person in the hostel using audit. All positive screens. We're setting up a virtual clinic, and our nurse is going to talk to everybody who's got a positive screen, find out how dependent they are, find out the risk and how quickly we need to work with those individuals, and then offer them the same plan that we'd offer in the community.
So what happens if somebody is dependent on alcohol and they can't get out of the house and they've got no money? What can they do?
I think we're going to see an awful lot of that. Some of the community hubs, I think, is it Gemma Gardner who's on later on in the programme, is from one of the, is working with the community hubs. Right now, places like Calderdale, Kirklees, St Mungo's in London, they are looking at providing alcohol through the community hubs. Our role in that is to support the community hubs, and anybody who's identified as can't get out and get the drink, we will then work with those individuals to make sure that they know how to drink what they get safely to avoid withdrawals, but then link them into a plan to either drink safely or to drink down in a way that's safe, or to offer them a detox that we would do anyway in normal routine times. These are really unprecedented times, you know, to be thinking. We're also looking at working with hostels for them to use alcohol as medicine. So if they allow alcohol on site for people who are dependent drinkers, it's looking at, is it safe to store it? Does it make them more vulnerable? Once they've got the alcohol locked away safely in the hostel, working with hostel staff to support them to support those individuals to drink safely and to use that alcohol as medicine so they don't go into withdrawals. And for each of those individuals, it's about, again, engaging with them, harm reduction, and looking at what treatment options we can offer. So actually, it's early intervention in many respects.
And connecting as best that we can right now.
Absolutely.
Can I ask then, because Pam from Tempo has just put a comment on the live stream to say where she lives in Calderdale, lots of churches are coming together to provide accommodation for homeless people. And I just think many of those people will be drinkers. And I thought, because that's a fantastic thing. Are those churches aware that there's some brilliant organisations out there who are willing to partner with them and support? And I suppose, what can we do to be proactive around that?
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. You know, the church, the services that are linking in Calderdale with Humankind, who are the drug and alcohol treatment provider, are a Christian charity, and they are going above and beyond. And I think that's the responsibility of us as a provider to get out there and to make it really clear who we are and what we can do. Burnley Together, really interesting. That's one of the local hubs in Burnley. Have worked really closely with Inspire East Lancashire and have put together some really quick guidance. What to do if you can't get a drink and you get withdrawal symptoms. That was put together really quickly on Friday and has gone out on Friday. So we've got to get really proactive at linking into the hubs. That's why I'm contacting commissioners in every region really, but we're talking about Lancashire to be really proactive and say, work with us on this. And this is people who won't know.
I just think this is great that we're thinking outside the box and we're relaxing the process, because we have to, because we can't work like we used to.
No,
I think there's a positive will come from, I really do think that
more compassion.
Yeah, and connectedness, and we can do that.
But I think there needs to be some awareness of how complex addiction is, because it's really great to say, oh, we're going to put on some support and we'll invite you in and we'll, you know, then it's like, actually, we're not sure we can manage.
This is where partnership working comes in, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And one of the big roles that we're going to play, and we really want to get out quickly and do, is offer as much, not training in that traditional way, but sort of doorstep training, on the spot training, Skype training, phone call training to people to say, look, it's great that you're going out there, you're dropping off food, you may or may not be dropping off alcohol.
Do you want some naloxone as
well? Do you want some naloxone?
I did it last week.
Absolutely. Is that person eating? Are they using benzos and other drugs as well that are going to, you know, build on their personal risk? And do you know what an alcohol withdrawal symptom looks like? Because some of the people, and I was so impressed with some of the values of the charities that we're going to be working with, particularly the Salvation Army. They're a lot of their members are very temperance based and abstinence based. These are people who are opening up their hearts and their minds to provide people with alcohol to stop them becoming ill or dying. And I just want to give a big shout out to that people who are open-minded and compassionate. It's just made me feel very humble.
Hold on, can I just say, you know, Peter Furlong, you're allowed to smile there in the corner, mate. We know you're a human being and you've got loads of love. And why are you telling me off?
You're in my ear.
I'm sorry. We'll get you some earbuds then.
But you can't smile, Pete.
Don't be having a domestic now. No domestics on live stream.
Hey, do you know, they're like serious issues, aren't they?
I would
domestic violence.
Yeah.
Not for us. Not for us.
Not for a minute did we think that.
There was we've got a guy that comes on massive. Just shout out to Harry, our Harry there over in Blackpool, who's been struggling. and we got word out just the other day, and he got a food parcel dropped off in Blackpool.
They've got
and
a
that
real
was real quick
community spirit there.
in Blackpool. Yeah.
Horizon just wrapped around him.
And I got a message last night saying, yeah, this is what we've done for him. And I just thought, nice one. Response team, go.
Nice one, Shelley.
Absolutely.
Shelley.
Yeah, so that was good. So there are people struggling. I just love that you're thinking, and and Prum was saying it last week, we've got to think outside the box.
We have. I mean, the way we did business before was very safe and very risk assessed. We're still going to be really safe, but we've got to make decisions and support people with decision making in a much more agile way.
Yeah.
Short-term risk for long-term gain. Oh, thank you so much, Ariella.
Thank you. Thanks ever so much. I'm going to stick around for the rest of the session because it's just fantastic.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
You're very
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thanks, Tom. And if you want to contribute, just at the bottom where it says reactions, just put your hand up, press that button, and then we'll bring you in.
Next to that, there's a donations box.
Will do. Will do.
It should be. I'm only messing. Right, just on how important the work you're doing also, and Paula touched on it, how important mutual aid and connection is right now in this world we're living in. I just want to bring in our Melanie Cowan. Hey, hi.
Everyone.
Are you all right?
I'm good.
So Mel, how are you finding work and lockdown at the minute, and what are you doing over there?
And what would you like to see continue after the lockdown? What new ways of working as this crisis brought about that you'd like to see still on the table?
Well, for us, I work for Inspire Blackburn with Darwin, CGL service, and like people have spoken about already, it's been a challenge, this disease hit us quick and fast. And the guidance from government and Public Health England were put in quite swiftly, and no one was really prepared for it. So it was kind of an overnight change. So much like Ariella's just discussed, we've had to completely change the way that we work. And like Dave talked about earlier, none of us are very good at this stuff. So we've had to switch everything to digital quite quickly, pretty much. So with Darwin, what I'm seeing is the community are far more connected now than they ever were before. I'm seeing nothing but positives coming out of this horrific situation. There's mutual aid meetings all day, 2 or 3 a night, and you don't even need to leave your house, whereas people would use an excuse perhaps because they had children and they couldn't find childcare, or they had other more important things to do. Those excuses aren't there for them anymore. For our service users, we've developed a timetable. So we started off with a number of WhatsApp groups. I think the most crucial thing that's come out of this is daily contact. We're having daily contact with service users in Blackburn with Darwin, so that's quite a challenge for our staff. And a lot of people are working remotely and from home, but they are vigorously on the phone to our service users. We have a number of different WhatsApp groups, so people, the service users, they're peer-led, so they're in contact with each other all day long. I'm watching it buzzing now as we speak. People celebrating each other's clean time and little milestones and stuff like that, and just generally supporting each other and looking after each other's health and mental well-being. Within the timetable that we've developed, so all the groups that we used to provide before, we provide now through Zoom, accredited learning, training courses, peer support groups, service user forums, community groups. We link in quite a lot with the 180 project in Blackburn. And
just shout out to the 180 projects. Not did I tell you I do CrossFit, Melanie?
Feel your muscles.
I do CrossFit, yeah, and that has been amazing to watch. I went down to the gym this morning, and they were loaning out equipment to people for free. So people go out and get their essential shopping, and they can stop at the gym on the way home and grab a dumbbell to do the online sessions. And these are things that aren't making any money at the moment. You know, they're not. People aren't paying the memberships anymore, so their livelihood is essentially gone, but they're still there in the community doing this for people's well-being. And the 180 programme are now delivering their sessions online through Zoom.
Yeah.
So essentially providing everything that we were providing before online. The only challenge about that is it's kind of what Dave and Kerrie were talking about for people that aren't very computer savvy, or for people that don't have access to computers or smartphones. We've been giving out free burner phones in Blackburn with Darwin to people just so they can actually get to speak to somebody on the phone. And that's a massive concern, and being able to train someone to use a computer through Zoom is a bit difficult if they can't use a computer, you know. So we're putting a little package together which is just like an introduction booklet that they can read that tells them how to do this stuff, you know. So yeah, for me, all I can see is massive positivity. I have never seen people so connected.
Yeah. And it's strange, isn't it, when you think about it, because we're so used to interconnectedness, aren't we? We're so used to wanting to belong to a group, to do it virtually. I'm so lucky that, you know, I'm so grateful that we can, you know, because there are people out there that can't yet. And I just want to say that you see me do my CrossFit, don't you? And just talk about CrossFit for a minute, because it's all talk about these days. I loved what we did the other day. We did a big Zoom meeting, and it was, you know, they were saying, you know what, I remember I'm an addict, I remember I'm an alcoholic. No, I remember I'm an athlete. It was like, yes! And then we was all on the screen. I was out in the garden. We were still all egging each other on screen. So we were still doing what we needed to do. And just on what Paul delivers some nutrition training, which is amazing, because what you eat is so important right now for your immune system. And I just want to share that all over about your immune system, anything to boost that. Rainbow foods.
So just that's really important, because we've got a guy called Gavin who's in Littledale Hall, and he wants to give a shout out to the well because his benefits have been stopped. And the well have been helping him with some food clubs. So, you know, there is people out there who are struggling to eat the right things to keep their immune system up. And we've got local players who are stepping up to fill that gap. So Gavin wants to give you guys a shout out, Dave and Kerrie.
Out to Kerrie and Dave.
Nice one, Gavin.
Just on that as well, I know that the Leyland lockdown community have got, they've been making lots and lots of food in lots of dishes and going out delivering it. I know that Crossgate Church are, and they've made some little Let's Pray books, which I've handed out with loads of naloxone and boxes as well.
I got a phone call the other day, didn't I, asking my local church, would you like a chicken curry dropping off pizza? I was like, ooh.
Can I have 3, please?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Melanie. It's great to see you.
You're welcome.
Stick around, Mel.
Stick around, Mel. And just on, just as I mentioned, naloxone there, Peter Furlong.
Peter Furlong.
While we're on the subject of naloxone, hi. Can you tell us the work that you're doing now? Because I know you're out there and about and you're training, and you wanted to push out the naloxone peer-to-peer stuff. How's that working now?
Well, unfortunately, the peer-to-peer stuff, just the training, we'd done one session and then COVID-19 hit, really. So we had to postpone all face-to-face training. That hasn't stopped us really pushing the message. And then the message is now is that we just want to flood the communities with naloxone. So I know historically we have focused on injecting drug users, haven't we? Even though you can overdose if you're not an injector. But the message now is everyone needs to take naloxone, whether you don't even use opiates, you don't use drugs, you know, you might just be a member of the community and let people know you've got it. So all our services are really now pushing everyone who walks through the door to get the naloxone off, regardless of the drug use. You could be a carer or a family member living with a drug user. So I think the message is, let's flood the communities. Let's make sure everyone's got at least 2 kits. And if it gets used, you know, let us know and we'll drop some more off for you. And I say drop some more off because that's the new normal, isn't it? It's about
so that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
And then
naloxone. We've been having our hands on these out the other
we've
week.
got those as well.
Nasal sprays, yeah.
Are you giving them ones out as well?
You got the Nixoid as well, yeah.
Yeah. And Peter, just or Ariella,
services are, yeah.
Just a question around people if they fall off script. Is everybody going over to Espinal? If they don't pick up the methadone, will they be given? You know, will they be restarted or not?
Do you want me to get that, Pete? People will be restarted. There will be absolutely no gaps between people being able to be restarted. There will be new starts will be going on to Espinal, and I think those decisions have been made in liaison with Public Health England, with the Royal College of Psychiatrists, just from we want to get the spread out there that everybody gets the medication, but as safe as we possibly can. So it was a big decision organisationally, but I think it's the right one because it just means we get more people involved and with the medication they need.
Yeah. Okay. What about secondary needle exchanges, Peter? And needle exchange.
So we've been working on some guidance for staff last week, so that's going to hit the ground on Monday, Tuesday for all staff to have a look at some harm reduction advice and guidance. So part of that is a real promotion and push on secondary needle exchange, which is really, really simple. I mean, if we wasn't in a pandemic and we had time and we were going to introduce a structured secondary exchange, it would be just that. It'd be structured and we'd have nominated peers who would be trained and we'd have some monitoring and some follow-up. We haven't got that luxury now. So all the advice will be for our workforce is every time someone presents for a needle exchange, they're going to be asked, are you willing to take some more for other people that you may know who might find it hard to get in? We're saying to everyone, take at least 3 to 4 weeks worth of stock yourself for your own use. But there's no limits on what you can take. So if you want to take more than that, that's more than okay. Secondary exchange is just really, really simple. It's just taking enough for yourself and for other people that you may know. And then the more that gets sort of spread, then and people are okay with saying, yeah, you know, my name's Peter Furlong, I've got like quite a stock in the house, you can knock at my door within the realms of social distancing. That's what we want to promote, that there's enough needles, clean needles and syringes out there for everyone during this period, really.
I think, I know Matt, I saw Matt, I didn't see him, but I saw a post off him. He was out, Matt Southwell from Euro Input, he was out delivering needles the other day to his peer group. I just think the naloxone kits should be going out with them as well. You know, and it would be, how would we get our hands on the naloxone and either getting put out there?
Well, as I say, everyone who walks through the door should be getting offered naloxone, ideally 2 kits. So if you can think of like everyone in the community, in our community, in the Lancashire community having naloxone, that's the aim really. So not only via needle exchange interventions, which should be standard every time you get some needles and syringes, you're offered naloxone, but just everyone and everywhere, just really flood the community.
Absolutely.
Glenn's asked me a really interesting question, so thanks, Glenn. It might be one for Ariella with a nurse head to come in, but Glenn's asked, what would your advice be around social distancing if someone's got to administer naloxone? Well, that was an interesting one. I guess with any health intervention, social distancing goes out the window a little bit if you're trying to intervene and help someone in an emergency situation. Ideally, you would have some protective equipment. You'd have some gloves, maybe a face mask. Put someone in the recovery position, administer naloxone, and maybe step back and wait for the ambulance, which you would have already called. I don't know whether Ariel has got any nurse sort of finesse to add to that, but for me, you can't really social distance if you're going to administer naloxone. But like any health intervention, you would take as much precaution as universal precautions really about if you've got protective equipment, use it. I don't know whether you want to add anything to that, Ariella.
As you're speaking, Peter, I'm thinking, should we, shouldn't we, why aren't we? We must do. Give out a pair of gloves with every single naloxone kit, so that at least people have got those. But do you know what? To just get that naloxone into somebody, you're not going to be right up next to them. You can still do it and step back. And I think getting somebody into the recovery position, you're not going to be putting yourself at risk. It's very unlikely that there'll be any transmission of COVID doing it that way. And I just think most people's compassion is going to kick in, and they'll try and do it as safely as they can. But I think let's think about at least getting some protective equipment out there with the naloxone. And just to add what Peter said, every single service user in Change Grow Live who's currently on a prescription, an opiate replacement prescription on MAT, we're going through every single set of individuals' case notes to check that they've got naloxone, and if they've brought it back or it's expired, that the peers and whoever we can get out to do it will deliver more. So
and you can with the MAT, because you've segmented the population. That's the beautiful thing about MAT.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
These are like really important topics, and we've got 50 people watching now live. And if every one of those 50 people hit that share button, then we'll get this message out there. Because I think, you know, some of the easy wins would probably be around just targeting the homeless hostels that are popping up, or the hotels, and just making sure some of the staff in there know how simple it is. Because I mean, we was talking yesterday, weren't we, Pete? Some of them are locking themselves in the offices now, aren't they? They're like, they're frightened.
We've heard stories from Manchester, So, I mean, the good news is the streets of Manchester have been sort of addressed, and people have now got, did have a roof over their head, but unfortunately, there's not a lot of support with that. So when people are going in hotels, we've heard stories of people covering the smoke alarm up so they can have a pipe, and then they're getting thrown out. So it's unfortunate, but it is about getting that message out, Pete. I think the other thing I'd add about secondary needle exchange is one of the messages that staff are going to get next week is, where resources allow, is to do much more outreach work in terms of needle and syringe exchange. So, you know, you could have a scenario where someone's self-isolating or might need shielding, might have COPD, and, you know, it's too dangerous to go out. And what we're advising all services now is that people can ring up and order the delivery of needles and syringes, and put your order in over the phone. The staff member will take it, and at some point during that week, you'll get some dropped off. So I think that's really important, that people use that as well, and contact services. All our needle and syringes are still open. I know there's some reduced hours in our buildings, isn't there, that I think Emma's got from Ben yesterday, but
I did,
while we're open, the needles and syringe exchanges are open. But I think more and more, if people want to ring up because they're scared to go out, or they're self-isolating and they want to put an order in over the telephone for needles and syringes, that's okay. And where resources allow, we'll deliver them.
Let's have it right. We're going to have lots of our service users who will have received letters around shielding and isolating. And if we can help them to understand what resources are available, it's going to stop them putting themselves at more risk.
Absolutely. Well, sorry, go on, Emma.
Sorry, I was just going to say I have got the opening times of all the Inspires in Lancashire. I can get that on the thread. I can put that on the thread just so everyone's aware that because they're not open every day anymore, are they?
Yeah.
Sorry,
no.
Peter. Melanie, have you got a question?
No, I just wanted to say that in Blackburn we're taking our needle exchange mobile. So
Brilliant.
the police have given us permission to park it up in certain areas. So we're letting the hostels know, because we have a huge hostel population with Darwin. And so they've given us allocated spots where we can park it throughout the day, and then people don't have far to go, so that they're not using their essential hour out or whatever it is to go.
You'll find that the service users have got quite a good network of word of mouth that'll get out there, won't it?
The best.
I mean, you don't have to put posters up advertising it. They'll get the word out.
Do you remember that? Yeah.
Well, that's it. I mean, I remember a few years ago, I think Ariel will remember it. Paul Duffy used to work for Public Health England, done a survey in Merseyside about illicit methadone, you know, black market methadone.
Yeah.
And his findings were really interesting. What his findings basically said for Merseyside was there wasn't much methadone getting sold, but it was more altruism. So people were, you know, if I ran out on a Friday and I didn't get my script till Monday, I'd knock on such a number in the street and someone would give me some methadone. So if that network still exists and we can tap clean needles and syringes into that same network, then brilliant. I mean, it's community asset, isn't it?
It'll depend on the individual on how busy they want the house, won't it? But
yeah, and you've got to look at social distancing and stuff like that. But yeah.
And as the services evolve and are less draconian and more compassionate, those people will come with the skills and their assets. I mean, that's how we operate. We're an asset-based community, aren't we? Just speaking of that, it's probably worth just giving Paula the heads up now to say very shortly we're going to be wanting your daughter to sing us out, Paula. So we're giving you the 10 or 15 minute heads up for that.
But just on the back of that, Peter, I mean, I was out not last week, the week before, with the boxes delivering the naloxone, and for some of our service users who didn't know how to use it, it's like a couple of minutes on the doorstep. Well, not on the doorstep, so at a social distance. Doesn't take a long time to show someone how to save a life. No. And you know, in these times we're in now, I think people who have picked up a bulk script for 2 weeks, the telling time will be next week if they've sold it or not. You know, and if we are going to need to, they're going to need more. Because I think people will, and I said it last week, don't underestimate our service users as well. You know, I know some of my family are like, no one's having anything. It's mine. So, I think personal responsibility for your medication is key.
Glenn's asked me another interesting question. Thanks, Glenn. Glenn's just asking about when naloxone won't work. So I think a lot of people know the answer anyway, but naloxone will only work on an opiate overdose, so typically methadone, heroin, codeine, over-the-counter stuff, and usually these other drugs in the mix. But what naloxone does is knock the opiates off the receptor sites. But if someone's had, say, I don't know, a benzo overdose and only benzos, it won't work, but it won't do any harm either. So if in doubt, get it in. But the first, as everyone knows, the first course of action is always ring 999 before you do anything. So if it isn't an opiate overdose and you've injected the naloxone, an ambulance should be on its way anyway.
I was talking to one of the hostels the other day, and some of the staff, 3 of the staff in there were scared, and they hadn't got any of this, and it was like, right, well, let's look at getting you some virtual training, because you're going to need some.
Or webinars.
Webinars, maybe.
We've not worked out how to do webinars.
I'm sure as soon as we do, you will know.
We'll give Rob
we can help out with any type of virtual training. There is some videos on Facebook at the moment. I think our Stockton service put a video out about, it was like virtual naloxone training, so maybe I'll share that.
It was fantastic. It was fantastic. I shared it.
I've seen that.
Really informative.
It
was really good. Thanks, Peter.
So before we get on to the next speaker, can I just give Scott Parker a shout out?
Hi, Scott.
Scott was hosting last week. He's not with us this week, is he? So he's like, shout out to Scott. Okay.
he was asking about detoxes, emergency detoxes, because I know they've had to shut some, Ariella, this might be for you. I know they've had to shut some rehabs down. But as for detoxes, is that happening in the community or?
Yeah, we'll be doing alcohol detoxes. People can stay in their homes and we'll do it remotely. We'll look at how can they get their medication for the detox, and a nurse will work with them over the phone or by Skype to monitor the detox. And yeah, there should not be any problems with people accessing that. And if somebody should or needs to go into inpatient detox, they'll have what we're going to call really enhanced care from a consultant and one of the lead nurses who will contact them on a minimum 3 days a week to support them to stay safe and alive while they're waiting for an inpatient detox. Some detoxes are staying open, some have closed. So we're going to try to list out there on our internet site really quickly. And on the internet, on the Change Life site, it went live on last night. Coronavirus and alcohol advice, and there's some really good advice there about drinking down, not stopping drinking quickly. So everything that we do without coronavirus, we're doing, but in a slightly different way.
Yeah. Well, we have to, don't we? Yeah, we have to, and we are resilient. Thanks, Ariella. So let's bring on David and Kerrie and tell us what you're up to in the community.
So while you're unmuting, Dave, Pam from Tempo's just told us that they've got a webinar training program, and she's happy to see if she can share that with the new U team. So thanks, Pam. Dave and Kerrie, you're a force for good in the community. Welcome. Thanks for being patient.
All right.
Cheers. So you've asked how we're dealing with this current crisis and how we're dealing with it with our community members. And for me personally, I thought it'd be a walk in the park because I've done that much jail. It shouldn't be any different really, but because I've got all the amenities here. But I think it was a bit of a novelty at first, and then the more the days have gone into week 2, it started to be difficult because I think we got a stock of chocolate biscuits and stuff like that, and I noticed I did. I was just raiding the cupboard, so and my days were just blending into one because I thought with this lockdown, I'll get a bit of time to chill. We won't have to work so much. It'll be all right. We can chill. We've always been asking for some time, but we're doing more now than we've done before the lockdown, and because we're working through the laptop, I can put my head into the laptop first thing, and then next minute you don't realise that it's 5, 6, 7 o'clock. So it's I needed to get some routine within that. So I've started to get into a bit of gym and stuff like that. Started to do things within the house and less chocolate. But I also had a thought, I used to hear people saying prison, Paula, was a walk in the park. They've got tellies, they've got games. I thought right now, stop all this Zoom and stop all this. You'll get a real understanding what prison life is like, being locked up 23 hours a day with just your telly, and that's it. No communication like this. But the lads are only getting 10 minutes to slop out and get a wash and stuff like that. So it can really affect your mental health when we're really locked in and isolated. We're quite fortunate. We've got technology and phones that we can really keep connected with.
And the fridge as well. It's like any time I don't know what to do, it's like, I'll go to the fridge.
It's got the answers.
Well, there's only so much noodles, P, you can eat, isn't it? You know what I mean? With your kettle and stuff like that. I thought Paul was going to do how to cook his beans in the kettle or something, when
yeah, shout out Paul B.
Paul, hi Paul.
Just in terms of how we're working within the community, we've really, as you said before, we've really got to think outside the box, but also thinking about our own staff well-being as well, and making sure first and foremost, they are okay, because if they're well, and if they're safe and they're healthy and their mental health and their well-being is good, then they can have a positive impact on the community. So we've really tried to work in terms of really constant communication with our staff team, and also, you know, we're doing a big staff team meeting, because we're across a lot of sites. It's difficult to get everyone together in one team, but using this process, you know, we're going to get all the staff together, and it's about their well-being. How are you functioning? How are you coping within this? Is there any difficulties? Because we trust that they know what they're doing in the job. You know, we talk to them on a daily basis of how they're dealing with the job and difficult situations. But having that time to talk about, you know, their struggles and their difficulties and that connection, because when we're connected, I think that's the foundation of everyone's mental health and well-being. So
it's a culture thing. It's a culture as well that breeds a healthy culture within an organisation.
Very much so, Pete, and you know, that's one of our values really, is that connection and making sure that we're well, and then we can give that goodness out to other people. But
just on that, Dave, just on what you're saying there, I put a team meeting in the diary, reoccurring for the next few weeks, at 10 o'clock, you know, just every day, yeah, just to make sure people are up, they've got dressed because they're in front of a camera and they're accountable.
Some
structure, you know.
It works well, doesn't it?
It does.
They enjoy it.
It's what's needed.
And support.
Because, you know, how many times have we seen, you know, people in the jammers and all that and stuff like that? It's like, nah, get up, get washed, and
get online.
Get online and stuff like that. So it's really important to have that routine, because you can fall in. But
Glenn's got some snazzy pajamas, you know.
Yeah, well, I suppose we could do it just to jazz it up a bit, couldn't we?
Yeah, we should do it on here, shouldn't we?
Yeah, we'll get dressed up, put the aftershave on.
I just want to see what Peter's is going to be.
Paisley.
And boundaries.
It's Paisley, and it's like, yeah. But I just think, you know, the way the communities have come together, the way the services have come together.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm getting emotional now thinking about it. How we've all pulled together, and we are one in this. And it's like, I got into this field thinking everyone wants to help people and care for people. And then when you get in, you're just disillusioned, because half of the time people are self-obsessed. What I'm seeing now is everyone's pulling together, and if we can keep that, you know, that together,
camaraderie,
that camaraderie. Yeah. When this is over,
yeah, man, we've got it nailed, then, haven't we?
Yeah, this is it. We've just got to keep moving forward. So we're thinking outside the box in terms of providing new services. We're doing, you know, online hubs. So we're going to have hubs online. We've had our first today from the Well in Lancaster. So people have come to the hub. And connecting, having a brew, so they're bringing their own brews, obviously, from the house. We're going to have some we're going to have breakout rooms where they can have book studies, where they can have gyms. So we're really thinking outside the box, and we will be keeping some of this when this crisis is over, because it will be over. And we'll want to keep a lot of this stuff, but I don't want to talk too much.
Because I just think as well, you know, there's so many people that we work with that, you know, really suffer from anxiety, and they don't want to come out of the house. And I think the party line usually is, we can get out of the house for your drink and your drugs, so why can't you get out of the house, you know, to do something else? But I think these platforms will be really helpful for those that do struggle, because we've seen so many people, they might come once and they don't do it again, and it's not because they don't want it, because people really do want it. They do want to be well, and they do want to recover. But the big spaces, the big groups, and the kind of things that we do, the peer supported stuff, can sometimes be overwhelming. So I think we'll definitely be keeping some of the digital, you know, for those people. But I've just found it, I think, just, you know, you and I were talking earlier, Emma, and I think there's a lot of sadness. I think, you know, week one, there was quite a lot of over functioning, you know, it was a little bit normal, you know, everyone kind of like lining the ducks up, thinking, what do I need to do? I think week two, there's been, you know, some exhaustion. I think there's very mixed messages in the news. You know, there's different news outlets reporting different things. You know, we've now moved into a big politics debate. I mean, 2 weeks ago, Boris Johnson was like Jesus Christ himself. And, you know, I've kind of watched the worm turn with that, really, where people are really starting to ask questions, and we don't have the right platform for these questions, and we don't have the right answers. And I think what we're seeing is, what's coming out of that frustration is, there's a lot of sadness. I've spoken to so many people who just want to cry. They're like, I never cry, I just want to cry. And we're just trying to help people just channel the sadness, because if we have the anger, if we look at things through a shield of anger, what we don't need to create in this situation is an other, you know, something else to be scared. We don't need an enemy, because I think the whole situation is an enemy. So, you know, we're just saying to people, just bawl your eyes out. You know what, you might not cry, but you probably don't think twice about sticking your fingers up and telling people, you know, to F off. Just bawl your eyes out and really connect with the sadness. And I think the stillness, you know, it's brought about a bit of stillness. I think, you know, there's been a bit of an up over function, and then we're coming down. It's like, shit, this is a real long-term reality. What's it going to be like? What is it going to be like? So people kind of come into terms with this still. And I think in those still times, we may need to ramp up our mechanisms of support and be having different conversations, because it's bringing that much stuff up.
We've got recovery, so we've got housing, so we've got 28 people, and we've had to break them houses up into families. So you've got 4, 3 and 5 people living in one house, and they're all living together 24/7. And it's like, I think it's this time that now you start looking at your partner or your friend and going, you're pissing me off.
It's happening here. I'll tell you, it's happening here.
It's you. You're lucky you've got us two on here together. No.
I call it fault finding. I did a Traditions 1 workshop the other night and was mortified.
Can you see the body language?
So, no, but
they're not joking either.
It's real. This stuff is real. So you have to really like take responsibility and say, how can I bring some love and some, you know, peace into this situation? Because we're going to start being irritable. We're going to start being frustrated. We're going to be short on patience and tolerance. So we have to really concentrate on working on that stuff, because we've had to put some fires out in some of the houses where the lads are falling out and stuff like that. It's because you're close. And that's why prisons, Paula, are so easy to go off. Because the hypervigilance that's going on within a prison setting, any look, any wrong comment can light the spark. And that's what we're getting a sense of now, that in our own home, you know, she didn't clean the frigging coffee. I made the coffee and I said, the only stipulation I have is just clean the coffee out, and she doesn't do it. And I'm like, that is the last straw. I can't take it. So
it's all about the love, Dave. It's all about the love right now.
So here, Paula, we need an intervention now.
And the kids, you know, let's not forget the kids in this. They can't play out. They're missing the friends.
The other day, Peter, as well. The other day, so I mean, I've only been probably doing an hour to an hour and a half schoolwork with the kids. That's about as much as I can tolerate and as much as they can tolerate from me. And the other day I'd said to my little boy who's 8, right, come on, do your reading. And he'd come and sat off in the office trying to do some reading, and he came out crying. I was like, what's wrong? He went, Mum, I just can't do it. I just can't concentrate. I just can't do it. And I think, you know, that sadness, that change is even in the children. It was like, just sack it, put it down, you know, we don't need to be crying about this stuff, and, you know, try again tomorrow. So I think it is just being tuned in. It's global. And I think one of the things that kind of came up for me, and it's an AA thing, but, you know, we're passengers on a sinking ship. And I think, you know, I think that sentence, it's, you know, we're all in the same boat. And from a working perspective, it's been good, because whilst there are degrees of accountability and responsibility, we're all in the same boat. We've all been
we're all in it together.
Exactly where we're at and what we're struggling with and where our brick walls are. And
and I think we're more in it together now than we ever have been. That's a beautiful thing.
And I think, joking aside, it's a serious side that, you know, to have more patience, more tolerance, and also to think, you know, the amazing work that the frontline services, the key workers are doing.
Absolutely.
Their children and you know, the families at home, and they're on the front line. So be patient, you know, with your prescriptions and your you know, all your medications and your harm reduction stuff. Be patient, and it's like, because people are working 7 days a week, and it's like, we thought we'd have a break, and it's like, we're working like 7 days a week. It's just fortunate that I know our services manager that I can get a lot more, you know, but it's like, we're all doing, you know, a lot in and putting a lot in. So everyone to have patience, because these people are putting their own lives and their own health in jeopardy by being on the front line. And it's like, that's why we went out and applaud them. And I think the organisations on this platform here, I just applaud you and just think you're doing amazing.
Let's just all clap now for each other.
Come on, Peter.
So, just on that then, can I ask the people who are watching live
to clap,
to clap, but to share, to hit that share button as well, because coming up in a couple of minutes, we've got a singer, haven't we, who's fabulous, and I would have hate for you to miss that little treat. Just a shout out to John Roberts, who's saying there's 7 of them in their rehab, and they're working well with staff together. I'm shouting.
Brilliant, Did you get the look then?
See the look. I got the look.
Pour the love in, Emma. Pour the love in, girl.
I'm a lover, not a fighter, man.
I think Peter's
Emma, just on the back of what Dave said there, someone said to me the other day, what's the best thing about this whole situation? I said, there is no best thing, is there? He said, no, there must be something good about it. And I said, the only thing I can think of is it's leveled everyone. It's just leveled everyone to the same level. Everyone's in the same boat. Doesn't matter what your job title is, whether you live in a mansion, whether you live in a flat. Everyone's on the same boat, and it's leveled everyone, and everyone's thinking the same way, aren't they? Which is a great thing.
And Cormac talks about together apart, you know, and we are together apart more than we ever have been, and it's real community spirit in a weird way, because we're behind our screens. But I feel closer to you guys than I ever have in the past, and you know, I'm not.
Well put, Emma. Well put.
And Gareth was saying the other day, it's like Mother Nature's having a breather. She's having a break, which I thought was a good way of looking at it as well, giving Mother Nature a bit of time off. Okay, do you know, for once we're on time. We've stuck to an agenda.
While we're on Gareth and Gemma.
Well, absolutely, absolutely.
So while we mentioned Gareth, we're just going to pull you in there, Gareth and Gemma, who've been feeding people out in Lancaster. Hi.
Hi.
You all right, guys?
Yeah, good. I hate technology with a passion. I'm going to openly say that. I prefer to see the whites of people's eyes and have that conversation. So this is just, I'm sure there's like mice or something run the computer. It's voodoo magic to me. Absolutely crazy. But that being said, I totally agree with what Peter said. We're all on the same level now. You know, there's no upper, no lower. It's all everyone on the same fighting field as such. That's why community's got to come together. But you're not going to do this on your own. It's got to be shoulder to shoulder. So at the moment, you've got Chef's Catering, Chef's Catering Northwest, Robert May out in the Bay, Roses and Ribbons are coming all together with Haitian Golf Course, making 600 meals a day for the Egg Cook Project. It's absolutely amazing. I know I'm shouting because I'm not going to get told off, Peter, like you. We're both half deaf, being ex-military, so I'm all right. I can shout what I want. However, it's just the fact that you've got to come together. You've got to stand shoulder to shoulder. Because if you don't, you won't survive this. You know what I mean? Mentally, you'll crumble.
Just speak, because did you mention Cormac?
Yeah.
You did, didn't you? Yeah. And I just want to spare a minute for Cormac Russell, who's lost his mum.
Yeah.
And we've had also, one of the guys has sent a message to say, called Derek. He said, just give Cormac a shout, you know.
We love you, Cormac.
We love you, Cormac, and we're with you.
Praying for you. Yeah, in this time.
Okay. Gemma, tell us about the work you're doing with the partners via the community hubs and Lancashire County Council.
Well, for me, before I go into that partnership work, I think we do need to not just look at all, like you said, Peter, all the communities are coming together. And I've noticed Morecambe, Higham, Overton, Middleton, Bolton-le-Sands and Lancaster have all come together.
Yeah.
You've got people dropping things off on people's doorsteps, And I'm out there every day doing delivery, and I couldn't do what I do if it weren't for out in the bay, for example, with Rob, Higham Golf Club. So we're delivering and doing all
Yes,
this.
Rob.
He's awesome. But interestingly enough, going back to who was it mentioned about healthy food and the immune system?
CrossFit.
Someone give a shout out to the well, because they were saying
we designed our first meal menu on boosting the immune system to help them to fight the COVID naturally through the bodies. And we had to change our menu within 24 hours because people were asking, why am I doing salads? Where is proper food?
Well, it's Paul Burrows that does it with the 180 project.
We've been trying to educate for 2 weeks solid, and people still want pies. They want the roast dinners. They want the chocolate. They want the snacks. So if they want it for the mental health, I'm going to give it
to Gemma. What are you saying that you think the immune busting foods are?
Well, I've put, if you look over at Chef's Catering Northwest, what I do every week or so, well, it's every 3 or 4 days, I put great articles written by scientists, written by nutritionists, telling you what you should be eating and what you should be enjoying that's going to help you boost your immune system. Because I thought myself, vitamin C, get it down your necks. And lo and behold, it was Harvard University that said that vitamin C isn't the right thing to be doing for your immune system. There's lots of other things that you should be eating. So it's all there. You've got to read it. I'm not going to spoil it for you. I'm not a chef.
We've got to go to your website to find that, have we? And what's the website?
Facebook page. Facebook at Chef's Catering Northwest. It's all there. But the thing is, what I've noticed through we're doing little competitions every few days that we're giving out freebies to people that can't even afford our services. So, but there's people coming together, and that's what I want to reiterate. Chefs, we can't do what we do if it weren't for the communities. And Morecambe is rallying around more than any other community in this area that I've noticed. What's your thoughts on that, Kerrie? Because you're in amongst it.
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree, Gemma. It's the way that everyone's connected and the way that people are working together, and the councils as well. I think the councils are doing cracking jobs. You know, they're coordinating, and the CVSs, both CVSs, the one we work with up in Cumbria, and the one that we work with in Lancaster. I just think everyone's really doing well.
I don't think there's that element now like there was at the beginning, where everyone was obviously scared and they all were very vulnerable and isolated. Now, because people are communicating a lot more, even through the food. There's a gentleman who was in MasterChef from a Morecambe area, and on a Friday night he's doing helpful advice on how to cook certain foods. And it started off originally wanted it to be quite jokey, and more people were clicking in with him via Facebook and saying, look, can you do other things? Can you teach us? Because people want to be home. I've seen you doing it, Emma. You're cooking with your son, aren't you? Making chocolate cake.
Yeah. Well, it's not all about the chocolate cakes, Gemma. It's actually about the rainbow foods. But I am baking with the kids.
But the point is, we put love into our food, and we can do this with our kids. My little one, Bella, she's been stuck indoors, but she was making brownies.
It took a lot of patience to cook with 2 grown men in the kitchen, and it's like my boys are big boys, you know, and they all I have to force them to do things like that with me. So that was a chore. That cake was a result.
We've got a strategy. Emma's got OCD, and one of us just starts talking about smelly socks, and she's off. It's like she's off with the Hoover.
I'm moving a roof tomorrow.
Well, Scott, our executive chef, he was a Michelin patisserie. The guy is phenomenal. So he makes amazing sticky toffee pudding. And what he's doing, he's going to be doing some food next week where he's not using flour and eggs and things. And we're going to start educating more. So we're doing it through the Egg Cup project as well. The Egg Cup project in Lancaster, absolutely amazing. I didn't realise till the other week, they were the guys who donated some of the food to the Red Rose Christmas dinner.
Yeah, really good.
Brilliant. So that's how small a world it is. because they came along with the new potatoes and the pigs in blankets, and lo and behold, it's the same person that loaded Gareth's vehicle.
So Peter Furlong, you are the positive of what's going on. It's brought people together. You know what I mean? It's full circles. It's pushing people who wouldn't normally operate together, making us work together regardless. Colour, creed, doesn't really matter. We've got to all come together as one. So yeah, massive positive.
Common good, isn't it?
Oh, definitely, yeah, definitely.
Right now. So thanks for that, Gemma. Thanks, Gareth. Glenn, did you want to come in there?
Sorry, Emma, what was that?
Did
and
you?
Liz as well.
Yeah,
She's been
and
making food.
Liz, yeah, Liz has
I
been
think
making
Glenn just woke up there.
Sorry, what was that, Gareth? No, big shout out to Liz as well, that's been doing some cooking on the LUF page.
Thanks, Liz.
I can echo what Dave said. The fact that since all this has come in, I've been busier than I am in the office and doing things with our groups are every day. I'm doing team meetings in the morning with Emma. Then we're going on and doing partnership working with LCFT. It's just been hectic. And I think we do have to find some time for ourselves and keep staff safe as well.
Yeah,
and keep in connection with, definitely.
I know that Scott, I know that, well, all the team, a massive shout out to all the team that are doing that. But me and you spoke the other day, didn't we, Glenn, similar to what we were saying, Kerrie, before, about, I said, shut the laptops, to just get rid of them for a bit. We've all got headaches by it, because we're used to being out and about, aren't we? Not stuck at a laptop all day, every day, and into the night as well.
You got lit. I mean, Liz, you got us baking once we watched you do the bake. You know, here's one I baked earlier on WhatsApp. We was like, right, we'll have to.
No, I baked. I baked.
I beg to differ that I'd already started it with the Chinese egg fried rice.
Yeah, I just thought, obviously, everybody was panic buying bread and flour, etc. And I thought, are these people really going to know what to do with all the flour that they've been and panic bought because everybody else is buying it? So
we made dumplings.
Sorry?
We made dumplings, didn't we?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I got one of my daughters made a cake. My other daughter made some bread and showed people how to do it and with the ingredients, etc.
You put that on the LUF page, didn't you, Liz?
Yeah. I just think it's a good way of connecting with people as well, and we've got to be mindful that people, not everybody, but there's a lot of people in addiction and in recovery that don't know the basic skills of cooking because it's never been something that they've been bothered about. And we need to get back to the basics with them using up-to-date technology. And it's a good way of connecting, and we're teaching them how to cook their own food.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so I just thought it was a good idea to do that. Right. And we got a lot of donations as well. I've got to say a massive thank you to Euro Garages and Greg's for all their donations that they gave us. My kitchen was absolutely overrun with Greg's, which I couldn't eat another Greg's now for 12 months if you paid me. I've seen that much of it, but it was really beautiful to be able to go out and give bags of food. There was bread, milk, sweet treats, there was pastries, there was sandwich fillers, there was all sorts. And it was just really good to be able to go out and reach the community while we still could, while guidelines allowed for that. But now that we can't do that, let's teach them how to cook those things themselves.
Online.
And what we're doing now is linking in with the community hubs, because the councils are coordinating that work now, so we can still do it, but coordinated through the hubs.
Glenn?
Just on the back of what Liz said there, a big shout out to Shelley from HMRC who come out and did we was out till 9-10 o'clock at night, Chorley, Leyland, delivering food to the homeless and that. So thanks to her.
And
Lindsay, I'm watching Shelley. This is ABCD on a digital platform, not just what you got taught the other week. Because it is something people don't know the language, do they? Gemma, Gemma, did you have a question?
Yeah, no, what it is, it's just a bit with regards to what Liz was saying, because now that we are got the isolation, and I want to reiterate this, because you've got the food banks, that are still running those clubs. They're still going out there, they're going to key locations, and their members are getting there to go and get the food because the guys are following the procedures that the government and the NHS have laid out. They're wearing the masks, they're making sure their staff are temperature checked. We know because we're following this. Yeah. So people are not realising that these food banks that existed have basically diversified, like the Egg Cup project, that are still out there delivering. So if you fall into that category and you've used the food banks before, you've gone into the shelters, give them a ring because they're still working. Yeah, they are coming to you. That's exactly what the Egg Cup's doing. There's more and more of them right up and down the country, but people weren't sure it's still going on.
Gem,
sorry.
You're getting some questions coming through, but also people want to recognise the fantastic work that you're doing. We know Chef's Catering's a social enterprise and we want to support you to carry on in these challenging times. So a massive respect to you and the work that you're doing. And Paul Stanford and a couple of others are asking, what's the website? What's the details? Where can they go to find out about the healthy eating recipes?
So it's all on our Facebook page, which is at Chef's Catering Northwest. We have a lovely web developer. She's based down south. She's trying to update all the blog sites and get us up there with it, because you've got to bear in mind we were restaurateurs, outside caterers, and we've had to diversify to do the meal delivery.
What's the Facebook page, Gemma?
What's Chef's Catering Northwest.
Chef's Catering Northwest.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's us. Fantastic. Because we've got a fantastic team, and we're just pushing that information out there, really. But if people need anything from us, so especially in Morecambe, Higham and Overton and Lancaster, we're actually taking bread, milk and eggs out as well to people. So a lot of our deliveries are the children are based in Chester or they're Liverpool, they're all over the place, and they're saying my mum and dad are isolated and I'm really scared, I want them to have some healthy foods, and we're sending it out to them so they know that their parents are getting fed. There's a review that came on a couple of days ago and it's a lovely lady, and she said, it's the first time my mum's had a proper meal in years and I cannot thank you enough because I now have peace of mind, and she lives in Chester.
Yeah.
And that, to me, makes it worthwhile what we are doing.
Thank
you. And Rob sits at that computer 7 days a week, helping us, trying to track it all.
There's a lot out there, isn't there? There's a lot of people on the front line.
Without community coming together, you're not going to be able to do this. So without out in the bay, without everyone just standing shoulder to shoulder, I know we said that a lot, you're never going to be able to do this. You know what I mean? You've literally got to stand shoulder to shoulder regardless.
And I think that is the main key message of all this, isn't it? Shoulder to shoulder together, we can. And just on that, I love you all dearly. We have the beautiful Keza Johnson on the line. Can you hear me? Unmute. I knew this would happen. No, don't.
So while we're just troubleshooting Kezo, I think, you know, we've got you there. Hi.
Got you, honey. Hi. So, yes. Can you speak so I can hear you? Right, we can't hear her.
Right, connecting to audio. There you are.
Hey, honey.
It took me a while then to figure that out.
Welcome to the LUF Lounge.
Hiya. Hi.
So this is the gorgeous Paula's daughter, who's going to actually sing us out. But just while you sing us out, guys, I really appreciate you all being here and seeing your beautiful faces. And we'll get through this together. Is there anything anybody wants to say right now? Positive, uplifting for our guys in the community.
Can I thank everybody that's tuned in, everybody that's shared, and just we'll say that we'll be here again next Saturday with just a beautiful lineup. And thank you guys for sharing your time on a Saturday evening and spending it with us and everyone else who's here.
Can I just touch on something? I'm just mindful that there's a lot of families that are now with, obviously they've got addiction active in their household, they've got to lock down, they've got to be isolated with the person that's in addiction. The rate of domestic violence has gone through the roof, but that is another conversation. I just want to say that, you know, even though you're isolated, really do take advantage of your outdoor space if you've got some. Make sure you take yourself off, and just as a partner of somebody that was in addiction, it's really important that you make sure you have some me time to just be able to process dealing with them a lot more than what you usually would be. Just being stuck in isolation with somebody in addiction is hard.
Thanks,
And
Liz.
maybe, Liz, as well, just put the Families Matters number on the thread that we're sharing there for the guys.
Yeah.
So I just, instead of a word from everyone, I think we should all just clap again, because I think we should, for everyone that's on the front line working. And then we're going to hand it over to Kezia.
Hi guys. So,
hey, honey.
I guess mum pulled you here then, did she?
Yeah.
I'm used to it. I'm normally the party prop, so I'm gonna sing the song that me and my brother have just finished. So this is the first time actually singing the song over the track, because we haven't practiced it, but obviously we've got it covered. So this is called Best You Ever Had. Can you hear the levels okay? I've never done a Zoom concert, so this is the first Zoom. I know you're tired of hearing truth when you're spoken, but let's be honest, this relationship is broken. The truth went out the door. I don't love no more. You should have shown me more of what I need more. No, 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 not gonna be your no, 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 I ain't come running back. No, 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 I'm too good to bad, oh. But I'm the best you ever had. You had, I'm the best you ever had. The best you ever had. It's coming down at the whole mouth. I can't see it in your face, so tell me your pleasure. Just putting them down, now take my sound. Why have you put on the song? I've seen it sound before. No, 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 not gonna make that okay. No, no, no. Play with fire, but say no, 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 no. I'm too good, just too bad. But I'm the best you ever had. You had. I'm the best you ever had. You had. If you know what I know, maybe you could see my point of view. It's too hard to hear it, way too endearing. Your colors ain't got no feeling. You back in your ugly situation. No kind of bragging, now I'm heading to the stage. My train is alone, so I have to leave you too. Just know that I'm the best of life. I ain't gonna come running back. I ain't gonna come running back. No. I ain't gonna come running back. 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 You had. I was the best you ever had. You know. I was the best you ever had. Back. guys.
I'm the best you ever had.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just remember that song is I was the best you ever had.
Best you ever had.
Remember that.
I'm the best you ever had.
Thank you.
Guys,
so
thank
much.
you so much.
Thanks, Kerrie.
I'm glad to bring a bit of shine to your meeting.
Fantastic.
Don't follow me on Instagram, please.
What is your Instagram? What is it?
It is Kezia Soul, so it's Kezia Soul _music. That's me.
Brilliant.
Me and my brother's got an album coming out very soon, so that was one of the tracks.
Lovely.
Thank you so much.
Proud of you, Kez. Thank you.
To everyone, I love you all dearly. Look after each other.
Thank you for having me.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.